put it in the question. Please put it in the chat. And everyone who is joining us, when you go to the little chat thingy, make sure you select all panelists and attendees so that when you sing the praises of our lovely panelists, we can all view them.
Wow. That's
amazing. Ladies.
There's people from all over.
It's because we're international.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, it's
Shall
awesome.
we start then?
Yeah, you guys start. I'm going to be in the background. So thank you, ladies.
1 second. All right. So hi, everyone who's here today. Thank you so much for joining us. Today's webinar is going to be extremely exciting. I know I'm excited. I'm fumbling with my words as well. But anyway, so today we have Elisabeth and Naomi. Elisabeth is a member of Robert Dilts' leadership team, and Naomi is a coach and founder of Alma Explorer. And now I'm going to hand it over to you guys so that you can take it from here.
Thank you, Nashmita. Let me share my screen. That way we can get that out the way. Technical issues. Okay, have you got my presentation up?
Yes, great.
Can you see my slides or can you see the notes?
Your slides.
My slides, okay, perfect. Then it's lovely to meet you all. Welcome to today's webinar on balancing your ego and your soul to find your unique path. So let's introduce ourselves. Elisabeth.
Naomi, we're still on, we can still see your notes in the corner though.
How about
yeah.
Yeah,
now?
now it's perfect.
Good. Okay, perfect. Would you like to go first, Elisabeth, or would you like me to go first?
I would like you to get first. Thank you.
Okay, I'll go first. I've tried to help you out by putting a little flag next to both of our names with Elisabeth. So as you can probably tell from my accent, I am English. However, I have been living in France for well over 18 years now, so I kind of consider myself as French too. As Nashmita said, I'm a coach, coach trainer, but I consider myself more than anything else an explorer of mountains, of rivers, of lakes, lots of hiking, but also, as the name of my company suggests, an explorer of souls, because indeed Alma means soul in Spanish, and it just so happens that it's my middle name. It was the name of my great-grandma. So that's just a little bit about me. You'll discover a little bit more as we go along, but I'm really pleased when I started talking with Magda and Nashmita about doing the webinar today. Nashmita said to me, who do you reckon could come along with you to sort of co-panel with you? And straight away I thought about Elisabeth, and I'm really glad that she said yes to join me. So thank you, Elisabeth. I know Elisabeth is a little bit nervous about presenting in English, so let's give her loads of lovely comments in the chat box about how great her English is. Thank you, Elisabeth. If you want to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Naomi. Well, I am Elisabeth. I live in the south of France. I am an generative coach and consultant. I'm also an facilitator. I work a lot as a coach, in conscious leadership and collective intelligence. And if I have some problem with my English, and how can I say, please, pour votre tolérance, please, Naomi.
Please be tolerant, bear with me.
Yeah, be tolerant with me, and I'm very happy to be with you, however. Thank you.
Good, and we're happy to have you here as well. So let me talk you a little bit through what it is that we would like to share with you today. I don't know if this picture means anything to you, if it rings a bell, if an expression comes to mind. What we say in English is the shoemaker's son always goes barefoot. In French, we actually say the shoemakers always have the worst shoes. And I think what it is that's really important here for us to think about is, are we as coaches taking time to look after ourselves. And you might not all be coaches that are connected, but I'm pretty sure that if you're here online and that you're following this series, that you're either in some kind of support profession and that you're used to giving a lot of your time to people. So our idea today is to give you a little bit of time for yourself and to think about the shoes that you put on your own feet. It's something that's never been actually so true for me personally as right now. I jumped into the lockdown period and just started helping as many people as I could around me and forgot a little bit to look after myself. So lesson learnt on my side, and just sharing a little bit of that with you today and thinking about how looking after ourselves can also then help us look after others in a better way. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with a great exercise called the coach state to get us all into the right frame of mind for thinking about ourselves and helping ourselves during the webinar. Then I'm going to share with you just a little bit of sort of like thoughts, ideas around why I brought together the ego and the soul to talk about balance. And then towards the end of the webinar, the second part, Elisabeth is going to walk you through. I think some of you might have seen that we asked if you could come with some blank sheets of paper or filled in with the different levels of Dilts pyramid. We're going to go through that. If you haven't prepared for it, it's fine. We're going to give you some time to do so at the end of the webinar, but we're going to lead you through that exercise so that hopefully you can go away with something having done yourselves. Okay, so before, how do I get onto the next slide here? Here we go. Before we get onto that coach state, do you want to talk about setting an intention, Elisabeth?
Yeah, thank you. The idea is that in connection with the exercise that we are going to do, and generally for our lives, if we don't put any intention, there is not going to happen much in our life. If, for example, you get up in the morning without setting an intention on what you are going to do with your day, chances are that little will happen. So take a little time just now to think about your intention. What do you want to do with your life? Start to think about that, and we will drive you through the process. The state will help you connect with this intention and for the exercise later. And the idea is that to get into a very generative state, when you put your intention and when you go through the state, and that when you connect to some resources that help you, you will be able to reach a level of generative state. So maybe can we start the coach state, Naomi?
Yeah, do we want people to put an intention in the chat now or after the coach state?
Maybe after the coach state.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let's do the coach state. Then. Okay.
I didn't hear you.
Do you want to start?
Yeah.
Do you want to start the coach state and then I'll follow?
Yeah. Thank you. The coach
state. I'm sorry to interrupt, but we're having some audio issues. So if you have a slide up, may I request that you maybe turn your video off? Well, just to see if that helps a little bit, but it's crackling on both your sides a little bit.
On both of us, okay.
Yeah, first it was Elisabeth and then yours cracked too. Sorry.
Okay, how about now?
Thank you. Is it okay now?
Yes, it's better.
Is it better?
Okay.
Yeah, great. Well, the coach state refers to how we are present to ourselves in consciousness. We like to take the image of a smartphone. You can have it online or offline, and offline, nothing will happen. And if you are online, you can connect with consciousness or goal to your vision, and we will make a practice to help you to be online. So if you are seated, I invite you to sit straight on your seats, back and and to breathe. In NLP, we say that energy follows attention. So I will invite you to bring your attention to your center. And center in so you can either put your hand on your center or bring your attention to it with your thought. And to take 2 or 3 deep breaths. Breathe in and breathe out with the idea of, well, I'm here, I'm present. It's up to you, Naomi.
Okay, so once you've centered yourself, you found that center, which is maybe in your belly, put your hands there. If we move to a state of openness, just opening that field of awareness, we can maybe move our hands up to our heart and just take in some deep breaths and feel your breath moving up from your belly and into your heart.
And by maintaining this connection between the center and the heart, I'll invite you to go to your head. Be vigilant to what is happening here and now. And the idea is to and it's to you now.
Elisabeth, could you please repeat what you just said? The audio was a little off.
The idea is to maintain the connection between the center, between the heart, between the head, in order to have access to our multiple intelligence. It's up to you, Naomi.
Yeah, we're losing you a little bit on the audio. I'm not sure if it's the same for me, but let's stay connected. Let's move to the C and stay connected. Connecting to yourself, but also to the larger systems of which you're part of. So that might mean connecting to our different types of intelligence, our intellectual intelligence. We've just been in the head, connecting to that. Maybe moving our hands back down through our heart, through our emotional intelligence, back to our gut, to maybe our spiritual intentions, and just bringing those hands back down to our center and connecting fully with ourselves.
And while maintaining this connection between the center, the heart, the head, and connected to each other, to our resources, and to your intention, we'll invite you to welcome in benevolence all that could emerge here now.
Yeah, I lost you a little bit there at the end, Elisabeth, but let's hope that everyone managed to connect in some way to that coach state. And let's maybe share just quickly the crash state, Elisabeth, if your sound is working okay.
At the opposite, the crash state is when we are contracted, reactive, and we feel bad, sorry. That is the crash state, and nothing good can emerge from a crash state. So the idea is to practice in order to cover as soon as possible the coach state.
Thank you. Okay, I just read some of the messages in the chat. I think there's still some sound problems, but let's hope that as we go through, we manage to correct them. the idea is now, before we really get into the heart of the topic, the heart of what it is that we want to share with you today, is for you to share with us your intention, like we've just talked about, and to share with us your energy level. So we've just shared with you a coach state. Potentially our coach state is not at the top of its game with the sound issues. We're worrying about those, but the idea is for you to share with us your energy level between 1 and 10, and your intention in just one word that shares your intention. So if you want to put that in the chat, your energy level between 1 and 10 and your intention for the session, doing it for yourself more than anything else. And we'll come back and revisit those at the end of the session. So if you're all happy to start sharing those in the chat, that would be brilliant. And I'll give you a couple of seconds to do that before we move on. Someone was asking for the crash slide again. I'm reading the chat and putting that back up for you so you can see the coach state and the crash state. Okay, let's let those states, different states of energy come through, and your intentions for the webinar today as well. And like I said, we'll revisit those towards the end of the webinar.
The idea is that from 7 to 10, it's a very good level to start working on a topic. If you are 7, you should see your concept better.
I think we're losing your sound again, Elisabeth. And Nashmita's just asked me to fill in where your sound goes. So let's hope it stays with us at times. But if it goes, I'll fill in. I think what Elisabeth was saying, I'm trying to translate between the lines, is that if your intention isn't anything above sort of a 7, then the chance of it being fulfilled is very low. So it's about us working towards an intention that is within that space. Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to the heart of the topic in hand. What I wanted to share with you with these two pictures. When I started thinking about the webinar today, these two pictures sort of came into my mind, and they just sort of translate for me that of recent years, and as I've become more and more aware of who I am as a person and who I want to be, I felt more and more pressured to fall into one of these two categories. On the one hand, on the left, a category that I've known in the world of business or on the sports field in competitive sport. And on the right, another that I'm slowly discovering more and more every day, without labeling each of these as ego or soul or anything like that, without putting any words at the moment, just simply maybe explaining what is behind each of them for me and why I've been struggling to see which of the categories I would fall into. The first, the standing on the podium is driven by ambition, self-importance, living within your own reality, as it were. Whereas the second isn't driven by anything at all. In fact, it simply is. It's a state of being. It's a oneness with the world, as it were. I think that, the picture summarizes it perfectly. And I think the thing is to say not that one is good or one is bad, but it's simply for me the realization and the noticing that both exist. And for some reason, I felt like I've always been supposed to pick one, and that naturally I started with the one on the left, and now I'm definitely heading towards the one on the right. But what I would like to share with you today is that maybe we don't have to choose one or the other. Maybe it doesn't have to be black or white. It doesn't have to be a choice. So if I'm able to go to the next slide, I would like to share with you that perhaps listening to each of these voices, perhaps finding a way of allowing both of these options to coexist in a harmonious relationship might just lead to something that suits me a lot better. I don't know about you, but that might feel right for me. I found these cartoons I spend a lot of time looking for images and visuals and cartoons on Google. I just love it. And these for me represent so much more who I am, rather than the two from the previous slide, because they connect the two. There's balance here. You know, let's take the I love the one in the middle, the hot dog vendor. You know, that's got to be in New York somewhere. It's the big wide world, and yet there's a deepness in the message. You know, make me one with everything. And there's something else in there which relates to me a lot, is the humor element to it as well. I think what I'm trying to say here is that it's about finding a balance that is right for each of us. You know, trust me, I found a load of these cartoons. They're great when sort of typing Buddhist monk jokes or in the city and things like that. And I just came up with loads of just really great examples. And these are the three that most talk to me. But if you were to go out there and have a look for yourselves, I'm sure you'd find some that would suit you more. But the question then comes to me is, well, okay, I hear balance, but how is it that we find that balance? You know, the scales are there, but how is it that we find it? And I think for me, the answer is that there is no one right answer, that we need to find a balance that is right for each of us. And again, without saying that the ambitious businessman is our ego and the Buddhist monk is our soul, because that would be, you know, oversimplifying it and schematizing it, labeling it. It's important that we understand the role that each of these parts play. On the one side, we have the ego, which is that identification that we have with ourselves. It's our vision, it's what we think reality is. It's how we label things, how we put value on things for ourselves. And that's going to be very different from one person to another. But then on the other side, we have our soul, our higher self, a place that knows no fear, our true authentic self, some would describe it as, and also a place where we might go to doubt our ego, and actually, you know, vice versa, we might go to our ego to doubt our soul. But our soul is that place where we have that desire to connect with everything and everyone around us. And ego is often labeled as the bad and the soul as the good, but it's important that we see how both go together hand in hand. The acceptance of both is key. And we might be people that tend to give a lot with our souls, but in order to do so, we also need to fill our egos with some kind of fuel. There's an expression that is very much related to that, which will be my conclusion of the webinar. So I won't share that with you for the time being. I'll share it with you later. But what I wanted to share with you right now were some examples that I've found, whether in nature or in life, an everyday basis of that balance between the two. This is one of my favorites. This was an English philosopher, Francis Bacon, who said, in order for the light to shine so brightly, the darkness must be present. And these are three pictures of my travels and adventures in Patagonia, Bolivia. I think the other one is Switzerland, I think. Beautiful. You can imagine what the present moment was like, given the beauty of the pictures. But what I think comes across here is that the light wouldn't have the same power without the dark. The contrast, the balance is what makes the beauty, for me anyway, with these wonderful pictures. Another great example is the lotus flower that grows in the mud. A well-known symbol of Buddhism, a beautiful flower, but it grows from something pretty yucky, you know, from mud. And again, it's that balance of what's under the water and what's above it, and what we see. But that lotus flower wouldn't be there, and we wouldn't be able to see it if that mud wasn't there to welcome it and to help it grow. And possibly the most obvious, possibly the most well-known, the greatest example is that ancient Chinese symbol of the yin and the yang, representing the dark and the bright, the negative and the positive, the concept of dualism, you know, of describing how seemingly opposite forces or contrary forces can actually be complementary, interconnected, interdependent. If you look at the lotus, for example, in the natural world, and how they may give rise to each other as they interrelate to one another. The whole being, that's all in, talk about, Elisabeth talked about collective intelligence when she was introducing herself. It's the whole is greater than the assembled parts. And some other examples without having pictures to go with them, illness is the doorway to health, tragedy turns to comedy, disasters can turn out to be blessings. There's lots of examples, if we think about it, that can take us to that place of balance. So the question is, where does that leave us? Where is that taking us? You can see I've put that one word there, that purpose, that, raison d'être, as we say in French, that place that we're headed for. And I think that in the quest for balance, in the search for a harmonious relationship, for alignment between our yin and our yang, between our balance between our light and our dark, or what I've called in this webinar, our ego and our soul, but whatever it is that you want to call them, it seems to me that it's only once we have that balance, so once we have that balance in place, and I think what's really important here is that, so I'm waving my hands around everywhere because you now can't see me, there's no video, but that triangle which is holding up those scales could be way over to the left, or could be way over to the right, depending on whatever is the right balance for you. But it seems to me that it's only once we have that balance in place that we can plant our flag, our purpose, define that purpose and aim towards something bigger than us. And it is indeed, for me, by defining the balance that is ours, that is our own, that we can move forward serenely. And I've tried to, I'm not very good with PowerPoint, but I've tried to sort of draw a path with flags along the way, with milestones, stepping stones, whatever you want to call them, heading towards that purpose. And it's really, for me, when we have that balance in place, that we can start to step and move towards that purpose. And again, because this is how I work, I found another image that translated that for me, I think, perfectly. And I think here, I hope everyone can read what I'm showing here, is that Stanley is neither the hiker, the soul searcher with his yin and yang t-shirt on, or the businessman with his briefcase and his umbrella, but quite probably a beautiful balance, and somewhere there in between. And by going searching for that, it's important that we remember that and have acceptance of, they're looking at each other. If you look at the cartoon, they're looking at each other in quite a strange way almost. The importance of the acceptance of both of those, I think, is really important. Okay, before we move on to the exercise, I discovered Star Wars during the lockdown. I'd never seen Star Wars before. I know if you're a fan of Star Wars, you're probably thinking, what? How is that possible? But I was introduced to Star Wars. I knew Star Wars existed, but I was introduced to Star Wars during the lockdown. And it won't be of any surprise to you, or it might not be of a surprise to you, that Yoda quickly became a good friend. And as Yoda says, in this great expression, named must your fear be before banish it you can, is that we first need to label that balance, work on it, work out what that balance is, work out what's stopping us from moving forward on that unique path in order to be able to take our next step forward. And that is what I hope we are going to be able to do together with this brilliant exercise, which, so you are very lucky to be participating in the second video conference of the Dilts pyramid that Elisabeth is going to take us through. I was lucky enough 3 weeks ago to go through it with Elisabeth in a training course that I took with her. And it was the first time that she'd done it on a visio like this with Zoom. So I said to her, okay, brilliant, you've got to do it again. So you're the second lot of people to benefit from this experience of having a little look at how we balance our ego and our soul. And hopefully if Elisabeth's sound is back on, she'll be able to maybe take the notions of ego and soul that I've just sort of touched on in a very light way through my filter, how with the pyramid from Robert Dilts, ego and soul balance themselves out, and how we can move through that pyramid to get to our purpose at the end of it. So we said with Nishmita, if any questions were coming through before we move on to the exercise, we can maybe take them or see if we park them and come back to them later. I'm not sure if there are any questions coming through.
Not as yet. Sandeep has asked, how do you determine a balance between ego, which is all about me, and soul, which is about us? But I'm guessing the exercise will teach us that. Yeah,
it's a really good question. I'm hoping the exercise will help, and if not, my conclusion as well. But remind me if I don't cover it, we'll come back on it. Okay.
Yep.
Brilliant. Okay. Let's hand over to Elisabeth. Let's hope her sound is back on.
Can you hear me now? I hope so.
Yes.
Great. Thank you. So yes, thank you, Naomi. And yes, we would like to propose you this amazing tool, the Dilts pyramid, or the logical levels of Dilts pyramids. Maybe some of you already know. The idea is that between our vision and our environment, we have to be aligned in order to reach our goal. And more than that, between our ego, energy, and we can't reach our goal. So we had the idea to propose you to prepare some sheets of paper, that you could put on the ground. If you don't prepare them, or you can do it now, or we can show this level on our screen. The idea is that you will go through those levels from purpose, vision, identity, values and beliefs, capabilities. So, one. Thank you.
Yeah. A little bit there with the it was at the beginning, it was perfect, but we lost you a little bit at the
now
the end.
Is it now?
Yeah, now you're fine. Let me just
okay.
Towards the end when you were talking about that, so I've put in a picture here. I'm not sure if everyone can see. This is when I did it a couple of weeks ago. So it was in French, but you get the idea. So on the starting from the bottom, you put your sheets of paper. So the idea is for us to all, stand up and be able to move back and forward. You'll see why it really helps, from environment to behavior, to capabilities, to values and beliefs, to identity, and then to purpose at the top of the pyramid. So whether with pieces of paper, Post-its, whatever it is, if everyone wants to take just a couple of seconds and to prepare that. And then Elisabeth is the expert, so let's let Elisabeth talk us through it, and then if Elisabeth's sound cuts out, I will try and jump in and and help in the best way possible, but we'll make it work as best we can. So we'll give everyone a couple of seconds.
You can do that. If my sound is bad, you can do that, Naomi. I'm totally confident for that.
At the moment, your sound is perfect. So
great. Oh my God, great. So we will invite you to think about your intention. What do you want to bring in the world? What comes through you in this world? This has not to be very precise. For example, Walt Disney said, I don't know what it is, but it's shining. So the idea, maybe do you want to take something about health or about education, or the main thing is that you have an intention, a direction. So now, if you have two possibilities. or you stand up and you have your logical levels just in front of you, or you are behind your screen and you will do this exercise by thinking to this level. So we will start with the vision, the purpose. Let's go in coach state. I invite you to breathe, to be present in yourself, and to think to your vision, to your intention, to your purpose. What do you want to create in your life? Maybe do you have some words? Maybe do you have some pictures? And it's perfect. What attracts you? What inspires you? So take your time. We can take 2 minutes, 3 minutes. The idea is that you have a global direction. And if you need it, take the time to write what comes to you. And for this vision, the questions are also, what do you want to bring into the world? And what do you want? And this had to be balanced between ego and soul. If I want to create a world to which we all want to belong to, it's also okay to be a teacher or a trainer, or I want to be a very good teacher.
Elisabeth,
I lost also you.
Just the last bit.
The idea is to balance between ego and soul.
Okay.
So now I'm going to invite you to take a step back at the level of identity. And now the question is, who are you? What is the unique contribution you can make towards your vision? What comes through you? What role do you want to have in your life to go through your vision? And in the same way, who I am for the others, what can I bring to them, and who I am to me. And in the same way, take your time, maybe to write some words, or maybe do you have some pictures or some sensations? And that's really important. This identity helps you to go through your vision. You have to be aligned. And now, if you I invite you to take a step back.
We lost your sound again. I think you invited everyone to move to values and beliefs a step down.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And at this level, the question is, what motivates you? What are the values, the beliefs that carry you? And always in the same ways, those values and beliefs are for us. And these values and beliefs help you to go through your vision. And they are directly linked to your identity. The question is, why do I want to do what I do?
Well, we lost you again. We heard why do I do what I want to do, and then we lost you.
I think it was the end.
Okay, perfect. Am I moving down?
No, just one moment, please. And
Okay.
in the same way, you can write some words, think to our picture of if you have sensations. Pictures, sensations, gestures are much more important than words in this. And now I'll invite you to go to the capabilities level. Thank you. And now the question is, how will I do what I want to do? Do I have all the capabilities? Or will I learn some capabilities will help you to go to your vision, supported by your identity and related to your sense. And in the same ways, you have to balance the ego and the soul. You want to take the others with capabilities.
Elisabeth, sorry. You have to balance the ego and the soul. You're at the heart of the topic, and then the sound went. How do we balance the ego and the soul?
You have to, yeah, thank you. What do I want to take to the others, to the society, to the world with these capabilities, and what I want myself?
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And the idea is that if I take nothing to myself, I won't be able to. So take your time.
We lost you again, but I heard what I think I know what you were saying there is if we don't take anything for ourselves for our ego, then we don't have anything to give from our soul. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, thank you.
I hear you without hearing you.
Wow. Do you hear me now?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. And always in the same way, if you want to take some notes, to write some words for you, and maybe do you have some pictures or some sensations? It comes to you.
Sorry, we lost you again, but you were just saying words, pictures, whatever it is that comes into mind. I mean, I've done this exercise before, and I've got color all over my page. I've got images, smiley faces, whatever is right for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. And always the same way, I invite you to take a new step back to the level of the behavior. What will I have to do? What do I have to do? Always in the same way, you'll have to to do something for others, people, for society, or for the world, and you'll have to do for yourself. These behaviors will help you to move towards your vision, and always related to your identity, to your values and beliefs, and your capabilities. And always in the same time, take some notes. And finally, I'll invite you to go to the environment. Thank you. Where and when we have to act, to put some actions, always in the same way for others and for me. Always with the same idea of balanced ego and soul. In this environment, you will have some opportunities, or you can find some dangers. So take your time. I'm so sorry. And write. Maybe do you have some words for the environment, or maybe do you think to some picture? The idea is really that between your vision and this environment, you have to be aligned, and you have to find the balance between your ego and your soul at each level of the pyramid. What is related to the soul gives you energy, you feel patient, you feel enjoy, you feel something very proactive. When you are more on the side.
Elisabeth, we lost you when you said when you're more on the ego side.
It's more about reactivity. It's more about law. It's more about something you have to do, even you don't like it. You have to find this balance. And now, as you have descended the pyramid, I will invite you to go forward to your vision at your own pace. The idea is to go back level by level from the environment, after that to the behaviors, after that to the values and beliefs, after that to the identity, and after that to your goal or your intention. And to feel at each level between ego and soul, where is the difference and where is the complementarity? And how your ego can support your soul, and how your soul can give energy to your
How your soul can give energy to your ego. We just lost the end, but again, I heard you.
So I'm really sorry if you couldn't hear a lot of the exercise. If you have some questions to put in the chat,
Yeah,
some answer.
sorry, Again, we heard 90% of it, and I interrupted you, hopefully not too rudely, when we couldn't hear you. I think what you were just saying is if anyone has any questions on the exercise itself, would they like to put them in the chat? We've come to the end of the exercise, haven't we, anyway?
Okay.
So if anyone would like to pop their questions in the chat before we conclude the webinar, then Elisabeth, either through the chat writing or through, hopefully through good sound, we'll be able to answer your questions.
Yeah. Maybe can we put the picture of the pyramid?
Yes. Here we
Thank
go.
you.
Would you like to take questions just related to the exercise specifically, or an overall question?
No, we can take all questions. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a question. It says, I like the way you explain, but why do we need balance if the objective to reach the purpose or goal we have, then having balance doesn't make any difference? Also, how do we know we have reached a balanced life? Is it determined by how fast we reach our purpose? Should I go slower?
Good question. Elisabeth, do you want to explain in terms of the pyramid why we need balance between the ego and the soul?
Yes, with pleasure. The idea is that if we are only on ego part, we have not enough energy to reach our goal. It's like if we wanted only for ourselves, but not for the others. And on the other hand, if we are only on a soul part, it's like we need nothing for ourselves, and it's not right, because we need to live, we need to be nourished, we need to be recognized. So only on a soul part, it's like we don't.
We lost you again, Elisabeth, but I think we heard what you were saying about the balance. I think I remember an initial discussion that we had about the balance between ego and soul before the webinar, and I remember you saying, and I think this is the case for a lot of coaches, a lot of you know, people in support professions starting out, is that we give a lot from our ego.
Yes.
From our soul, sorry, we give a lot from our soul.
Yes.
And if we forget to nourish the ego, so it might just be by giving away free coaching and free trainings and whatever it may be, but if we forget to nourish that ego, then it's going to then make it harder for us to deliver from the soul afterwards.
I have a question, if
yes.
I may. Because especially when you mentioned, you know, being in a support profession, I feel like one dilemma that's constantly faced is, how do you distinguish between ego and soul? Because sometimes it does become a matter of ego, that, you know, you want to feel like you're a giving person and you're a selfless person to an extent where, you know, you might not realize that you have to sort of let go and let the other person make decisions. So how do you sort of, you know, figure out when it's your soul talking and when it's your ego?
That's a really, really, really good question.
Yeah.
I'll give my answer if you want, and then Elisabeth, you can, because I think we'll all have a different answer. I think it's probably the work of a lifetime, because I think our ego is smart, our ego is clever, and I think quite often tries to outsmart our soul, to, you know, overspeak, to over trump what our soul is saying. And I think and this is again on a very personal level, things like journaling, writing, getting thoughts out of your head and onto paper can allow you to separate what is ego and what is soul a lot easier than if everything remains within your head, within a thinking space. You know, it's when we did the coach state with our hands, we go to our gut, we go to our a place of being centered, trying to find that, you know, that soul, that place of balance. But I think it's ultimately, you know, when I talked about balance, it's going to be something different for each person. It's about finding what works for you. But I know for me that writing things down, getting things out of my head makes it a lot easier for me to sense what is ego and what is soul. I don't know what you think, Elisabeth.
I agree with you. For me, when I feel passion, when I feel enjoy, when I feel I know my soul is here. My soul is
We've
working.
lost you, Elisabeth. Sorry.
Oh my God. And here, can you hear me? I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. When I feel joy, passion, when I feel a lot of energy, I think I know that my soul is here. And it's the same I am seeing, when I feel I am recognized, when I feel I can be good for others, I know that my ego is here, you know. It's
It's
very
not easy.
yeah. If you are always giving something, you're unbalanced and your ego is not here. But if you feel that in some ways you are receiving from others, because they appreciate you, because you are seeing or recognized in your profession, or you know that your ego is here.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Nishmita is just saying to me that we've got just a couple of minutes left to wrap things up. And I think one of the questions that came earlier, and I hope that this would sort of maybe give a visual example or explanation, is if imagining that ego and soul are two cups, and that we want to pour from our cup, from our soul, then we need to pour something into that cup, which is our cup of ego, which we're not necessarily used to. You know, I can't remember where I read this from. You know, you will never be happy if you are living your life from the outside in, and in order to change that, to live, we need to feed the ego from the inside out. So thinking about pouring from a cup that is already filling our own cup, which is, I hope, what we've done today, of trying to give you that that time for yourself to go through this lovely exercise with Elisabeth, and to be able to then have something in your cup for you to then pour out from. So for those of you that still have a minute left, all that we would like to do is to check in with you and your energy state right now. If you want to put in the chat where you, just for yourself more than anything else, you know, maybe put a +1 or a -1 or a +2 or -2, whatever, in terms of what your energy was at the beginning. It would be lovely for us to see where your energy is at, if you'd like to do that in the chat. And we both, I'm speaking for myself and Elisabeth, but we thank you so much. We're getting lots of pluses, +1, +2, +3 in the chat. It's been lovely.
Thank you. That's exactly the idea. When you feel your energy is higher,
We've lost energy. When you feel your energy is higher,
it's a good sign for interactions, and you certainly have a lot of soul part here. Yes.
Yeah.
But if you feel that your energy is going down, you have to do something to balance this energy. Yeah.
I managed to find a little slide with balance at the end to say thank you, with the little stones on the beach for balance. But you know, I've seen that my sister's just put a +3 in terms of energy in the chat. So thank you all, and for your pluses. It's been really, really, really lovely being with you, and we hope to speak to you again soon.
Thank you so much, Naomi and Elisabeth. Like, we really appreciate the effort that you've put in for this webinar, and it really came through. Thank you to our audience for staying with us. We live in an imperfect world, and technology is not perfect yet, but we hope that you got the best from this webinar. But I know that I got a lot of value out of it, in spite of all of the issues. So thank you so much.
Thank you all, and so sorry for the sound.
No,
It's
it's
what
fine.
it is.
Yeah, we can't.
Elisabeth, for joining
Yeah.
us. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.